Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our sessions today. With myself, Mohammed Basit. I am from Mass Financial Consultancy. I am working in Riyadh. So I will be presenter for this session today. This webinar series, we are calling it a business webinar. The idea for this business webinar is to continuously educate and introduce new features which are available in TallyPrime, so that as a user you can able to make better use of it. This is a continuous series that we have been doing since a while now. There are some webinars planned ahead as well. You can check the past webinars as well as the upcoming webinars from our web page. We will share that link at the end of the session from our website. You can get from there. So as I said, this webinar is one of our knowledge series where we are hoping to introduce every futures from a smaller one to a bigger one, in the hope that you can able to implement this specific feature in your company and get better benefit out of TallyPrime. The Tally product session will be taken by our team member, Mr. Khalid. He will be taking us through the entire process of what are all the VAT reports available in Tally. And he's a Tally veteran who has closely involved in the product development as well. He used to work with many Tally users in understanding their requirement and then implementing new features in the Tally for the past 11 years. That being said, to have a flawless and seamless experience webinar session for everyone, all the participants will be on mute. If you have any question in the session, use the Q&A option, question and chat option in the control panel to ask your questions. We will be attending and answering these questions at the end of the session. We have a time allocated for that as well. And also, if anybody could not able to join the session on time, we have a recording as well that we will be sharing after the session. That being said, I welcome Mr. Khalid to take us through the VAT reports in Tally.
Thank you, Basit sir, and thank you for that brief welcome and the introduction. Dear participants, good afternoon to everyone, and I welcome you to this webinar on we call it as a guide to the VAT reports. So in this webinar, I will be taking you through the presentation first, and then I will show you the transactions that I have passed in Tally, and also how they get affected into the respective reports and into your and into the VAT return. So the first aspect that I'm going to cover today is the VAT returns, and then how do you make your VAT payment, and how do you do the tax payment reconciliation. So this will be the coverage for the session. Followed by this, when I'm taking the VAT returns, I have passed in purchase transactions, sales transactions, some transactions to record an advance receipt. Advance receipt comes into effect basically when you have received an advance for the sale of goods, but you were not able to fulfill it during the particular tax period. Like it could be a quarter, it could be a month, any of the tax period. Now, it is not only on sale of goods; it could be on a service also. Now, you are a legal consultant. Somebody is giving you advance for a legal opinion, but you're not able to fulfill the commitment. So thereby you could take it as an advance receipt and book the uh, due tax payable. Similarly, if you see reverse charge would be applicable in Saudi on imports and on goods that are brought in through um, brought in through intra GCC countries. Then the last option is where you have paid VAT to the customs department. In the first scenario, you did not pay VAT to the customs department, but in the second scenario, you have paid VAT to the customs department on import of goods. So these will be the transactions that I have already recorded so that we could do it a little quickly and we could finish. We could take you through these transactions one by one and have a look at it. And the last part is where I will be doing a payment or the VAT payment and how do I reconcile is what I will be looking at. So what I would like to do is at the first instance, I would like to take you to the Tally product. Here, right? I will navigate from the gateway of Tally to go into the VAT returns. The option from gateway of Tally that I choose is display more reports, followed by the VAT reports, and then I come into the VAT returns. So VAT returns is the final what do you say the final return that you're going to file. But before that, let us look into the individual transactions that we have recorded. You know, the sale, the returns has the major sections where you have the particulars, then the part, then you have the sales and the purchase part of it, and lastly you have the payment details. So if you're looking at the topmost part, it has the total number of vouchers that have been recorded, right? So in this, you will see how many are included in the VAT returns. And so there are totally 20 vouchers passed and 18 have been included. 2 are not relevant to this return. So it could be some voucher which is not required for VAT. It could be a payroll voucher or it could be a stock voucher or something like that. Right. And here it shows uncertain transactions that need corrections. This is one part where we normally tend to make entries, incorrect entries, not choosing the right nature of transaction, or you've tried to you've recorded the transaction with one particular nature of transaction and then later on changed it. So there are so many points that classify the transaction into this bucket, uncertain transactions, and corrections are where corrections are required. So you could go down there and Tally will highlight you what is the correction required. You can choose the right nature of transaction that is relevant to that respective transaction and accept it. Then the transaction would get regularized. Then it also highlights the next part where the the VAT account number is not provided. It shows the transaction where the VAT the VAT number is not provided. So in this, if you see, there are 4 transactions, and these 4 ledgers do not have a, VAT number. We can drill down and see there are four ledgers from whom either we've imported or purchased locally anything. These 4 transactions do not have the VAT number. You will see that blank. Now, the topmost part of the report again has all sales outwards. Local supplies at 15%. On 1,20,000, there's an 18,000 of transaction. Some transactions are there which do not require tax. For example, it is intra GCC supplies while exporting. It is not taken. Then similarly, we've recorded an advance receipt where I have recorded a transaction during the month where I have received 20,000 rupees in advance, and that is inclusive of the tax amount. So let me just press enter over this and take you to the transaction here. Here it is. It is booked using standard flags that are there in Tally. This makes your work easier. Instead of you can pass a journal voucher to do it, but it may not get reflected in the respective category of the tax return. So thereby you should take a precaution of recording a transaction, especially with JVs. The flags are provided at the bottom right corner of your screen, where you have this button named J, Alt J, and it shows stat adjustment. So just click on this and it will give you the flexibility of increasing or decreasing the tax liability and what is the purpose. So it just makes things easier for you, better for you while you are recording the transaction. And obviously the debits and the credits you will have to take care of, but just have a look at this transaction, and while we are going through this, it will also ask you what is the rate of tax and what is the taxable amount. So you need to mention it here. But the receipt transaction I'll show it to you a little later when I actually take up the advance receipts report. Similarly, you have a reverse charge. Here I have recorded two transactions, one on imports and the other is on purchases from GCC. Okay, these are customs duties which I have not paid at the at the transit point, but I have booked my expenses and paid it later. Similarly, while just coming down to the reports, you will see to the local purchases. Here I have bought some items at 15%. Then various categories of transactions I have put in to show you that all these gets occupied here, including purchases on profit margin and domestic purchases on from unregistered dealers. And if you see, there is a transaction on GCC purchases and GCC zero rated purchases, and something that I've also imported were but paid customs later. And there is an adjustment for input. The same thing is appearing at the bottom where I have paid 7,500 Saudi riyals on at customs duty. Sorry, VAT for VAT at the customs department. Having done this, if you see after all the final adjustments, I think the bottom figure shows that I have to pay about 10,000 10,108.7 Saudi riyals as VAT pay. It shows as VAT payable, right? And I haven't passed any transaction to record the VAT payment yet. Before I do that, I want you all to come down into the advance payment receipt. You remember this transaction I was showing you on advance payment? Here it is. How do I record an advance payment receipt? See, if I press enter on this, I will record a simple receipt. In the receipt, when I click on this Alt J Stat button, I will get an option to record it as an advance receipt. So all advance receipts, as I told you earlier, are payments received by us, but the transaction is not fulfilled. I have not given the goods or I have not provided the service. Then in that case, you can take it as an advance receipt and book your tax amounts. This screen is what actually bifurcates the transaction into the advance amount and the tax rate. It automatically calculates the tax amount and the tax rate and the advance amount is taken, is provided. It automatically calculates the taxable amount and the tax amount that has to be paid to the department. And here you in the method of adjustment, it will be shown as advance. In payment mode, whatever you've got, you can. Now, after this, I need to book the liability. So to book the liability, I will pass the journal, and in fact, I showed you this journal there. And while passing, I will use the stat adjustment, but click on the stat adjustment button, and here I will get various options. There is a whole list of options that are available, but here in my case, I have to increase the tax liability. So I will be choosing that option, and on that I will choose on account of advance receipts and debit the tax on advance, which is either falling under direct or indirect expenses, and other settings are all set to not applicable. See, in case of type of ledger, I've set it to not applicable. For statutory details, I have set it to not applicable, and assessable value calculation also I have set it to not applicable. And I will credit the VAT ledger. The VAT ledger, as usual, is just a simple one where you have duties and taxes, and the type of duty is set to VAT. Here I will reiterate the rate of tax and the taxable value. The method that is on which tax is calculated is the inclusive method. It is not the exclusive method. After booking the liability, it shows me what is the amount that is balance. Here, since I've set it off completely, I don't have to, the balance liability will be nil. But on the top of the screen, if you see where my actual the highlight is there, there is one more transaction here. It is an advance. I have received 2,000 rupees, but I have not marked it as an advance receipt. So that is why it falls under an advance receipt itself, but it is not marked as advance. Okay, thereby this liability tax liability is not booked. So when I change this voucher using the stat button to advance receipt, here it asks me what is the tax rate. I can say advance amount is 2000. It reverse calculates the taxable amount and the tax amount. So I can save it, and now you will see that they are both the transactions are marked as advance receipt. And if you see the bottom of the screen, the balance liability is for 2000 rupees, which the tax liability is not booked on that 2000 rupees using the journal. So I can go ahead and record a journal the same way as I did it earlier, and therefore this also gets included there. So I can just show it to you once again from here. On account of receipt, yes, debit tax on advance. Mm. Here I have booked the transaction, and both come into the uh, for both the transactions I have booked my tax liability. Okay, so far so good here on the advance part. This is all you need to do on having the advance receipt. The next part is where I talk about reverse charge reports. In the reverse charge reports, if you see, there are two transactions where I have imported goods from an Indian importer, and another transaction which has uh, from intra GCC taxable purchases. So we can drill down into this report and see. I have recorded this purchase transactions using the nature of transaction. In case of the exporter, I've just given the country, nothing else. And in case of purchases intra GCC, here I have chosen the nature of transaction as the nature of transactions are predefined for sales and purchases. So I can choose the appropriate one and give the required tax rates. So we've purchased some item. The important thing here is you can mention the taxable value, and in case you're paying it inclusive of VAT. But here, no, we're not paying inclusive of VAT. So I've just said 40,000 is the cost of the items that we have purchased. And this option has to be set to no if you are not paying VAT at the customs department. Is VAT paid at customs? You will have to set it to no. Now, in this case, I have booked the tax liability here for 6,000. 15% on 40,000 is 6,000 riyals. So here I have booked it again using the stat adjustment. The stat adjustment can also be done from here. I basically did it from here. Click on this, and I said yes, increase the tax liability on intra GCC purchases. Similarly, I have to debit the tax on intra GCC purchases, and followed by crediting the VAT ledger, which I have done it here. I'll show you the complete transaction. Right. So here it is a direct expense, and followed by I have to give the amount, VAT, the percentage at which the amount is taxable is shown. So I have booked the tax liability here. And similarly for the Indian exporter, if you see the transaction, see the nature of transaction here, it is imports taxable, right? And I am not paying customs on imports. The taxable value is taken as a full value of 20,000, and here the amount I'm saying no, I'm not paying VAT at customs. After doing this, in the similar manner, I will go back and book my tax liability for imports. Having done this, what happens if I have to pay VAT at the customs department? That there is one more transaction which I've recorded here, and I've bought. The only difference that here in the transaction that I've where I had not paid VAT at customs department, and in this case I have paid VAT at customs department, is this option. Then I have to set it to yes. Okay, after setting this transaction to yes, I will go down further to book the liability using the journal again. The account for and claim VAT paid to customs needs to be selected, and additional details have to be selected as imports, and the rest of the transaction is the same. Just to show you from any screen, if you click on Start Adjustments, including the VAT return, see this. You have the whole set of nature of adjustments, or in simple words, they are called flags. So it is based on these flags that the adjustments or the payments get into the relevant part of the returns. So it is a good, rather a best practice, I would suggest, to choose these stat adjustments followed by the additional details while you are recording the respective transaction. For example, if you click on account for VAT claim, here you have account for and claim VAT to customs. You have two categories, imports and GCC. Similarly, if you have a look at customs paid, you have the same ones. Decrease of tax liability, you have so many flags. So all these relevant transactions get categorized based on these nature of adjustment and the additional details. You'll also find there is something on reversal of input tax, opening balances if you want to bring in. All those categories of transactions you can use the stat journal for. Stat journal, it is a normal journal, but only thing is these are all predefined tasks which have been put in so that your job becomes easier. Now, having done all this, our return is more or less formulated. Before you make this payment, you can look into you can look into the return and save it. Look into the return and then save it. After saving, you can make the payment at at any point of time. Uh, let's say I want to I have recomputed it many times, so it just says recompute and overwrite, so that I can save it. So once I've saved, the return is saved. Now I can go ahead and do my stack payment. I say yes. My stack payment is for this duration, the regular VAT, and I have the flexibility of choosing my bank, right? And my payment is done. Right? Now, if you see there is no balance that has to be paid, the entire amount is done, paid, and closed. Now, after doing this, where do I check what has happened? There are two things which I have not covered yet. One is the returns transaction book, which says when was your transaction modified, changed, how many times was it written, overwritten, all that. So you could go back to the modified return and just press enter, and you could go and see what has happened. Similarly, you have the tax payment and reconciliation. Here, um, once a payment is made, you are not able to feed in many details. So you could come back and enter the tax period, when was your check deposited, uh, and all details relevant to your payment could be entered here and stored. So just a small reconciliation screen where you give all the payment details and have it stored for later on view. And this will be there month on month on your Tally. Now, with this, there are quick two things which I want to tell you is, you had seen that for ledgers I had not given the TIN numbers, sorry, the VAT numbers, and you could go and individually do it here. For example, they are sundry creditors, and yes, I can choose a region to which is choose this. I can enter and give the VAT TIN number. So I could do this individually, or there is another option here where I could go and import it. So in the import format, the file format, you can create it by yourself, where you have the name of the ledger name followed by the TIN number, and Tally will automatically import it for you. Once you give all the specific details, it will import it for you. So from my side, I have finished this demo. Let me just go back to the PowerPoint slide and let's check. Yes, we've done the purchase. We saw the purchase transactions, the sales transactions as usual. Advance receipt, yes. Reverse charge, the VAT paid to customs we saw, and we also did a payment. And yes, we had a look at these reports also individually, return transaction report and the tax payment reconciliation, which I showed you how to do it. Quick questions that normally come to us. Can we get information about changes made to the return? Yes. Your return transaction book shows you when it was modified, what was the modification done. And another question was, should we pass a journal voucher to record VAT on imports? I mean, the customs or the customs paid or the non-customs paid, you can do it with the normal journal, but it will get reflected into your books of accounts, but it will not get reflected in the VAT returns. When you use the stat adjustment vouchers with the appropriate flags and the subclassification, they get the entries that you pass get reflected into the respective categories. Please avoid the third question I just wanted to ask was, I just wanted to tell you was, please avoid using the normal JVs for recording any of the VAT transactions related to customs and the advance receipt or reverse charge. Don't please avoid using the normal JV. Use the stat JV instead. With this, I am done. If you have any questions, I am ready to take it. Basit sir, you're there?
I'm Shalit. Yes, I'm here. Yeah.
Yeah. Can we continue? Okay. I'll hand it over to you so that you can take it forward from here.
Okay, sure. Thank you, Mr. Khalid.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I think we had a very good session and good deep insights on the reports on VAT. There is a Q&A section. You can use this session to ask any questions you have here in terms of VAT. If you have any specific issue that you are facing, you can feel free to ask. Myself, I'm Khalid, can able to answer your questions. So to just as a quick recap, so for what we have seen, so in Tally, there are reports, especially for VAT, that you can access from going into display more reports and then VAT reports. There you will get a wide variety of reports ranging from a quick VAT return, where you can able to take a glance at what is your input, what is your output. Or as we all know, there are different kinds of taxation method, whether it is import or exempted or zero rated. So Tally can able to automatically identify and give you a report quickly and easily. And we also saw how we can make VAT for any advances we receive. Yesterday, actually, one of our client has asked. So let's say I'm entering into a contract with the client who's paying me 10% advance along with the entire VAT amount for the overall contract. So how can I show that? So those kind of things can be answered. Like how we have seen now how that entry can be done as well, like by creating a tax on advance ledger and how we recorded that specific VAT, and later on how it can be adjusted against the final invoice also. Okay, so the Q&A question is still open. If you have anything, feel free to share it there. As a quick loved the session. It was a deep insight to VAT reports. I believe everyone attended the session, found it useful. We will share the upcoming session on your emails, and the recording of the session as well will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, and the link will be shared over to you by email as soon as the recording is made available. Once again, thank you very much, and see you at the next one.